We're in the year 2022, and when it comes to boxing, everything is bigger, stronger, faster, and better. The heavyweights are taller and more muscled and punch harder than anyone ever. The smaller weight fighters have blazing fast speed we never seen. The sport is more challenging than ever. 12 rounds is a lifetime, and only the strongest survive. Now, for those truly listening, this is all sarcasm. Some things may be true. We may have athletes who are bigger and stronger by some standards, but better? I question that. And when someone says that every boxer today is better than every boxer of the past, I retort to one word. Charley Burley is one amongst a slew of other elite fighters of the past who defies said notion. His overall skill and style are a thing of beauty. Charley Burley was born on September 6, 1917 in Bessemer, Pennsylvania. He stood 5'9" with a 75-inch reach. He had a record of 83 wins, 12 losses, and 2 draws. He had 50 wins via knockout. He primarily fought in the welterweight and middleweight divisions. Burley was a part of Black Murderers Row, a contingent of black boxers who were largely ignored by the champions of their day and had to fight each other over and over, 62 times between the group of them. Despite being passed over for title shots, they were regarded as the best fighters in their division. This included fighters like Archie Moore, Coco Kid, Holman Williams, Bert Lytell, and many other great black fighters. Of the entire crew, Burley was regarded as the best pure boxer of the bunch. I once asked on social media whether there was any boxer with better feints than the great Sugar Ray Leonard. The name I got back that stood out was Charley Burley. This was my introduction. Feinting is a form of deception to make a fighter think you're going to do one thing but counter with the opposite. This is through movement and punching. While there isn't much footage of Burley out there in the archives, from the footage we do have, you can witness him deploying this tactic at the highest of levels. Burley's ability to change levels is almost unmatched. His flashes of brilliance depict just why his peers often rated him highly. Burley started his career off 12-0 before dropping an 8-round decision to Eddie Dolan on September 9, 1937. Not long after that, Burley would step in the ring with Hall of Fame former world welterweight champion, the Croak Comet Fritzy Zivic, on March 21, 1938. Zivic would win a split decision over 10 rounds with 2 judges scoring in his favor while the referee scored in Burley's favor for having landed the cleaner punches. Burley would have an opportunity to exact revenge on Fritzy Zivic a couple of months later when on June 13, 1938, the two faced off in a return bout. Burley's jab led him to a close but unanimous decision over the game Zivic, who could not land cleanly on Burley. After an August 2, 1938 win over contender Leon Zorrita, Burley would step in with his first Black Murderers Row opponent, Herbert Lewis Hardwick, better known as Coco Kid. Coco Kid came into the bout with 130 plus fights under his belt. Burley outdueled the wily veteran and picked up a 15-round unanimous decision victory to become the new world colored welterweight champion. On November 21, 1938, Burley would win a 10-round decision over future world middleweight champion and Hall of Famer Billy Soose. Burley would go into a 2-fight run with 140-plus fight veteran and contender Jimmy Leto. The first contest took place on June 20, 1939. Burley got off to a slow start after a 5-month layoff, and Leto used his stinging left to keep Burley at bay. Leto would win a split decision over the 10 rounds. The two wouldn't have to wait very long for the rematch as they were back in the saddle on August 28th. Burley would use his known savviness to pick up a 10-round points victory to even the series. Prior to this fight, Burley had again outpointed Fritzy Zivic when they met on July 7th, dominating the 10-round contest to show his superior skill set. This led to his first of several meetings with fellow Black Murderers Row alum Holman Williams on December 1, 1939 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Burley looked to be in unbeatable form as he dropped Williams 3 times in the 4th round. Williams found his groove and won nearly every round after that in a dominant second half of the fight. Williams would pick up the 15-round decision victory. Burley would move up a division to take on former world middleweight title challenger Georgie Abrams on July 29, 1940, fighting to a draw despite many in attendance feeling he deserved the nod. Burley would then pick up a 10-round unanimous decision over Kenny LeSalle on August 19th. On September 3rd, 1940, Burley would meet 14-0 Jimmy the Cleveland Spider-Man Bivins, another fellow Black Murderers Row alum, in a middleweight scrap in Pennsylvania. Burley got off to a slow start and Bivins racked up points over the early part of the fight by cleanly connecting and controlling the action. Burley rallied late and even had Bivins hurt in the final round but couldn't overcome the lackluster early showing, and Bivins won a 10-round unanimous decision. Burley would get back to his winning ways, picking up a 10-round points victory over contender Eddie Pierce in October 1940. He stopped O.C. Harris in 9 rounds in June of 1941, before stopping young Gene Buffalo in 5 rounds in July. In September, he'd then pick up a 10-round points victory over former middleweight champion of South America, Antonio Fernandez. Burley would stop 160-plus fight veteran Jackie Bert in January of 1942. On February 26, 1942, Burley would have a second meeting with Hall of Fame welterweight and middleweight great Holman Williams in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Burley would be in top form and dominated Williams for most of the contest to pick up a 10-round decision and a 23rd straight win. He also cemented himself as the true number 1 contender for the welterweight championship of the world, though the title shot would never come. On May 25, 1942, Burley would step in the ring for a middleweight contest in his first meeting with Hall of Fame future world heavyweight champion, the Cincinnati Cobra Ezzard Charles in Pittsburgh. Burley was the favorite, but Charles showed that he too was to become one of the greats of the sport's history. Charles took the first 2 rounds convincingly, and Burley did the same for the third. Charles nearly knocked out Burley in the 4th round and continued to show his class from there, though Burley did start to rip hard looping rights in the latter portion of the fight to trouble Charles. Charles would send Burley to a knee in the 10th round for a 3 count. Charles would win a unanimous decision victory in 10 rounds. Less than a month later, on June 23rd, Burley would be back in the ring with Holman Williams in a middleweight clash in Cincinnati. This was a hotly contested fight, though Burley had the edge all the way through and picked up another 10-round unanimous decision victory. 20-year-old Ezzard Charles proved his win over Charley Burley wasn't a fluke when on June 29, 1942, he again won a 10-round unanimous decision in their middleweight rematch. Burley was game throughout, but the larger Charles used his power to keep the elusive and slick Burley on the outside looking in, barely giving up rounds. Burley would gain his most definitive victory over Holman Williams on August 14, 1942, when the two met in a middleweight contest in New Orleans. Burley would stop Williams in the 9th of a scheduled 15 rounds. Burley put on a masterful boxing display, battering Williams to the body through the early portion of the fight. Burley closed Williams' right eye with a hard left cross in the 6th round. Burley then sent the bloody Williams through the ropes in the 9th, forcing the referee to call the fight to save Williams from further punishment. With the victory, Burley picked up the colored world middleweight championship. The two would be back in the ring again on October 16th. They would commence in a more tactical fight, with each choosing to box more, limiting any sustained exchanges. Williams would regain the edge as he was able to outpoint Burley over the 15 rounds to take the world colored middleweight championship. On December 11th, 1942, Burley would step in the ring with another great Black Murderers Row middleweight and Hall of Famer, Lloyd Marshall, in Hollywood, California. Marshall would send Burley to the canvas in the 1st round and again in the 4th before picking up a split decision victory over the 10 rounds. Burley took on another elite Black Murderers Row middleweight in Jack Chase on February 19, 1943 in Hollywood. Burley dropped Chase with a hard right in the 2nd round, rocking the steady competitor. Chase was able to answer the count at 9. Burley himself tasted the canvas in the 4th, but sent Chase to a knee later in the fight before picking up a non-contested unanimous decision, having only lost 1 round of the 10. Burley was in tough again in his next fight on March 3rd when he stepped in with Black Murderers Row middleweight Aaron Wade for a 10-round contest in Oakland. In what was a slow but closely contested fight, Burley gained the edge and won the decision. Burley would return to New Orleans on April 19th to take on old foe Coco Kid. A sharp right-to-left combo sent Coco Kid to the canvas in the second round, though he popped up immediately. The two battled close for the remainder of the contest, with it ending as a draw after 10 rounds, though some newspapers favored Burley for the nod. Quickly, before we move on, if you enjoy this type of content, please do us a favor and like and subscribe. This will help us to continue to bring this type of content to you. Burley was back in with Holman Williams on May 14th, though the fight was ruled a no contest in the 10th after a lack of activity from both fighters. Burley would again defeat Aaron Wade on March 24th, 1944, winning a 10-round unanimous decision before stepping back in with Jack Chase for a California State middleweight title contest on April 6th. Burley dominated Chase, dropping him in the 4th before sending him face first to the canvas in the 9th for a knockout victory. On April 21st, 1944, Burley would take on former and longest reigning world light heavyweight champion, the Hall of Famer, the old mongoose Archie Moore in Hollywood. Burley would send Moore to the canvas for a 5 count in the 1st, an 8 count in the 3rd, and a 7 count in the 4th. Burley would routinely hurt Moore through the remainder of the fight, though he could not stop the durable fighter. Burley would pick up a 10-round points victory. After again stopping young Gene Buffalo in 5 rounds on August 8th, 1944, Burley would step back in the ring with Jack Chase on September 11th. Burley battered Chase all over the ring throughout the contest before stopping him in the 12th round to pick up a TKO victory, his 3rd over Chase. Burley would defeat formidable contender Joe Carter on March 12, 1945, picking up a 10-round points victory. Burley and Holman Williams would meet for the final time on July 11, 1945 in Buffalo, New York. Williams was the busier fighter in the contest and outpointed Burley over the latter portion of the fight to win a 12-round unanimous decision. Burley would again defeat Aaron Wade via a 10-round decision on August 20th, 1945. This led to 2 meetings with Oakland Billy Smith. The first took place on October 8, 1945 in San Francisco, with Burley picking up a 10-round decision victory. The second fight took place on April 24, 1946 in Oakland. This is currently the only surviving film of Charley Burley in action. While he wasn't at his absolute peak, and with Smith routinely clinching and holding the faster Burley, it's clear to see the level of skill that Charley Burley possessed as he wins another 10-round decision over Smith. In what were the final 2 major matchups of his career, Burley would take on fellow Black Murderers Row alum Bert Lytell. The first fight took place on August 5, 1946. Burley would get the better of Lytell on this night, winning a unanimous decision over 10 rounds. The two would rematch on February 17, 1947. Burley had his moments during the fight, but Bert Lytell would win the 10-round unanimous decision on this night. Burley would fight on through 1950 before hanging up the gloves for good. There were points in his career where Burley was viewed as the best welterweight in the world, as well as the best middleweight in the world, even though he often weighed well under the middleweight limit. Burley, though, was also one of the most avoided fighters in boxing history, and therefore he was never able to gain a shot at either the world welterweight or world middleweight titles. Burley is arguably the greatest boxer to never win a major world title. His career was overshadowed by many of his contemporaries for years, but the boxing world has slowly but surely started to realize the talent and level of greatness of this fighter. With that, his name lives on in history, and stylistically, you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone smoother. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.